To us. And now let's get to our second keynote speaker, joining us all the way live from Australia, where he's staying right now and working. Simu Liu, he is probably needs little introduction, but you may know him from the hit series Kim's Convenience, one of my favorite shows. He plays Jung Kim. It's all on Netflix now, all the episodes. If you want to watch, definitely go on Netflix. He's also going to be soon portraying Marvel superhero Shang-Chi in the highly anticipated Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is set to hit theaters next summer. He's also a very proud Chinese Canadian. He's been doing great work using his social media platform to put a spotlight on works of notable Asian Canadians, and also speaking out against hate and racism towards Asians around the world in light of this COVID-19 pandemic. So Simu, we are so excited to have you with us here at this ceremony today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I guess I'll start by saying good afternoon, students, parents, administrators, observers, and people who clicked the wrong Zoom link and are wondering who the hell I am. My name is Simu Liu, and I am a professional actor, or at least I was until about 2 months ago. I guess now I'm a bit of a professional bug catcher, fruit picker, and island designer who moonlights as a Twitter comedian. So, you know, my quarantine is going really well. That was an Animal Crossing joke, by the way, and the speech is littered with them. So if you haven't played it, I'm sorry, you will not understand the entire speech. Also, I can't believe I had to follow Ryan Higa and Steve Aoki. What a pleasant surprise, and not a lot of pressure on me at all. It's such an honor to virtually be here today to celebrate with all of you the class of 2020, a year that will undoubtedly go down as one of the absolute worst in recent history. I wish I were looking at you from the podium right now, wearing a funny hat and watching all of your polite and mildly disinterested faces as you pretend to listen to me while you scroll through TikTok instead. Nevertheless, I am truly appreciative and humbled, and I will do my best not to be really, really boring. It's 6:51 a.m. in Sydney, Australia, which means I either woke up really early or stayed up really, really late to be here with you. I'm not going to tell you which one because we got to maintain the mystery. And why Sydney, you ask? Well, I was actually shooting a movie for a little indie studio you've probably never heard of called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Perhaps you've heard of it. First Asian superhero in the MCU, no big deal. No, honestly, if it were up to me, I would be in Nevada right now. Vegas, to be specific. I mean, I love Vegas. There's just something about its character, its spectacle. I'm referring, of course, to the mayor of Las Vegas, who recently became a bit of a national viral sensation through her interview with Anderson Cooper on CNN. You know, usually at this point I would pause for laughter, but you can't really do that over Zoom, so now I'll just sit here awkwardly. You know, given the circumstances, it would be very reasonable to think about this year in terms of what was taken away from you. Your graduation, your time with friends, your travel plans with family, your freedom. In some cases, you may even have lost loved ones. But for me, 2020 was supposed to be the year that I broke out, built my career, and became a movie star. Instead, I'm sitting at home like all of you, investing inordinate amounts of time into Animal Crossing and wondering what the state of the world will be when this is all over. If I may, I'd like to encourage you to look at the situation instead in terms of what you gain. And I know it sounds crazy, so bear with me. So I'm a big believer in the idea that we are defined by the adversity that we face. For my grandmother, it was defying her family and becoming a pediatrician at a time where women in China were not expected to get degrees or even to go to school. For my parents, it was immigrating from China to Canada with nothing in their pockets except the hopes and dreams of building a better life. For me, adversity was getting laid off from my job less than a year after I had started it. I've told the story a million times, so I don't want to bore you with the details, but the gist of it is that I was an accountant at a Big Four firm called Deloitte, and I was miserable. Up until that, I had been going through life passively, not quite failing, but not quite succeeding either. It was like being on autopilot. Every choice I made was not a result of my own critical thinking, but of simply going with the flow, with what my parents or society expected of me. I let everybody else decide who I was going to be and what was going to make me happy. And guess what? I ended up with the life that I hated. By the time I realized this, I already felt like it was too late to change course. I had a degree, a job, and a mortgage to pay off. I mean, what was I going to do? Just quit everything and start from scratch? What would my parents think? And I know you've all felt it, that classic Asian parent guilt. So I kept going, dragging myself into the office day after day like a sad corpse, counting down the seconds until I could finally go home and fall asleep so I could do it all over again the next day. And let me tell you, nothing that you have learned in school will prepare you for the soul-sucking tedium of working a job that you despise with every fiber of your being. There is no reset button at the end of the year. You don't get to take new courses, switch programs. That's it. You work until you retire, and then you die. And you thought I was going to inspire you. So a week before my 23rd birthday, a mere 8 months after I graduated from college, I was brought into my managing partner's office and terminated. I was given 10 minutes to grab my things and get out of the building. Honestly, it felt like the end of the world. I remember lying in my bed at night thinking that I had hit rock bottom, and make no mistake, I definitely had. But something strange happened to me when I woke up the next morning. I realized I was no longer on autopilot. Sure, the shame of losing my job at age 22 still stung, but I felt like for the first time in my life, I was finally in control. The life that I had, the life that had been built for me, had crumbled to the ground, but it was a life that I didn't actually want. And from its rubble, I would build something better, something that I could be proud of. My next few months played out not dissimilar to quarantine. I stayed home, I was unemployed without much of anything to do, and I began to reflect on all the choices that I made in my life. I realized that everything from the business school degree to the 9-to-5 office grind to my wannabe GQ sense of fashion was all a result of what other people wanted. Well, when I looked deep in myself, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So on a whim, I replied to an ad on Craigslist to be an extra on a movie called Pacific Rim, which was shooting in Toronto at the time. I fell in love with the energy of a film set and resolved to spend every single minute of every day thereafter trying to build a life for myself in that industry. I went from a lazy, unenthusiastic worker to the most hardworking and motivated person imaginable because suddenly I had found my reason to work hard. Unfortunately for my parents and for my bosses at Deloitte, it had nothing to do with balancing debits and credits. I think about the day I was laid off a lot, April 12th, 2012, 3:15 p.m., not in terms of what I lost, but in terms of what I was given. A chance to stop and think, a chance to look back, a chance to be honest with myself, a chance to throw out what wasn't working and rebuild my life from the ground up, a chance to live life for me. Right now, each and every one of you is being given that same chance. I'm not saying it's time for you to quit your jobs on a whim and make some really terrible life decisions, but maybe there is something that you have always been curious about, a dream that you've had, something you've always wanted to try but never gave yourself the permission, a dream you were always afraid to say out loud because you thought it was stupid. Well, take it from a person who was in love with movies his whole life but was too afraid to admit it. Your dream isn't stupid. The universe has given you the time and the means to own your dreams and take those first steps towards fulfilling them. So taste, try, fail, learn, fail again, and fail some more. Failing is actually fun when you're doing something you actually feel incredibly passionate about. The road ahead is anything but easy, but overcoming adversity as you pursue that which you most desire, now that's the definition of the American dream. To the parents listening in, many of you have sacrificed immensely so that your children could have the opportunity to graduate from college. For those of you who birthed future doctors and lawyers, congratulations, you did it. For everyone else, you have only yourselves to blame for your failures. Oh man, that joke really hit me. My own parents were shocked to one day suddenly discover that I was no longer an accountant when my national commercial suddenly came on TV. It led to a very tense period between us, and to be honest, we didn't quite speak for some time. I mean, sure, maybe I should have at least dropped an email, but to be honest, I don't think they would have taken it that well either way. I'm sure that my parents thought that I was squandering all that they had worked for, that I was throwing away everything that they had built. I'm sure they were constantly wondering why I couldn't have been like our family friend Cheryl, who had become a dentist, or Pauline, who was in med school, or Amy, who was getting her PhD at MIT. To be honest, I often wondered the same thing. I tried to live up to the life that my parents wanted for me, but in the end, I just couldn't do it. It was literally killing me to try to make them happy. So please take it from me and take it from my parents today who would agree with me. Listen to your children. Listen to their hopes and dreams. Observe what they're truly passionate about. If it's medicine or law, great. If it's accounting, not my first choice, but power to you. If it's something else entirely that you don't yet understand, try. You didn't work so hard and sacrifice so much to have your children beat themselves into the ground trying to please you. If you allow them the opportunity to pursue their own ambitions, you will watch them transform into the most incredible versions of themselves, and you will never imagine wanting anything else for them, I promise you. To close off, I want to do something super incredibly tacky and quote another commencement speaker from just a few days ago, Oprah Winfrey. I mean, let's be real, she's a billionaire and I am still wearing yesterday's underwear, so, you know. On John Krasinski's internet show SGN, Oprah spoke about carrying our ancestors' dreams forward and wearing the crown that they made for us. As an Asian man, I have never been more proud to wear that crown, and I wear it proudly and unapologetically every day for as long as I live. In the midst of this pandemic, when we face not only the dangers of the virus itself, but also of fear and xenophobia and racism, it's never been more important to have each other's back. At the end of the day, no matter where you were born, how well you speak English, there are people who would take one look at your face and project their own prejudice and hatred onto you. You cannot escape the color of your skin. What you can do is to make sure that those hateful people know when they attack one of us, they attack all of us. We are here, we belong here, and it's their archaic beliefs that need to go. Let's fight so that our children do not experience the same things that we do. As we come out of this global crisis, and we will, I encourage you not to want things to go back to normal, but to build a new normal, a better one. We're counting on you. Thank you to our essential workers and our frontline healthcare workers, and thank you to the class of 2020. Congratulations again on your amazing achievement. I'm sure I'll be seeing most of you on Call of Duty Warzone later tonight. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simu, for joining us all the way from Australia. I know it's very early for you there, and I think he shows us that a real superhero definitely is full of kindness and compassion, as well as brains and beauty. So definitely watch out for all of Simu's work coming up, of course, and his film coming up next year. Simu, thank you so much for joining us today.